Thank you so much for having me here. This is super exciting. It's making me even more upset that we're not in person because there are so many of you who I want to talk to already. What I'm going to do today is introduce you to the Center for Human Rights Science, which I founded here at Carnegie Mellon in 2011. I wanted to uh, give you a sense of who we are, what we do, what our values are. I wanted to show you a bit of one project that we have worked on with colleagues in the computer science department and Language Technology Institute, and you'll hear from one of the graduate students who we've been working with, Junwei Liang, this afternoon, and he's going to go into more depth. And I wanted to just give you a sense of the way that we operate. I, unlike many of you, I'm not a computer scientist. I'm not a scientist at all, unless you count my biology background as an undergraduate. I'm a social scientist. I study the use of scientific evidence in human rights documentation and in the criminal justice system. I got started, just to give you a brief sense of kind of how I got into this. I was doing work on identification of the missing after conflict and disaster, that led me to a project on counting civilian casualties. So how do we know how many people are dying in a conflict? And this is a question of data and data analysis, which I didn't really know all that much about. But because of my work on identifying the missing, I kind of got sucked into this project. Over time, this project really led me to three realizations. The first one is that human rights practitioners actually don't have access to the academic community in the way that military intelligence and corporate actors do. Second, that unlike in those other cases, there were no good models for facilitating partnerships between human rights practitioners and researchers and academics at a place like Carnegie Mellon. And the third thing that I realized when I was talking to my colleagues, people who are becoming colleagues in the human rights community, is that when there was any sort of collaboration between practitioners and academics, the relationship tended to be extractive and not empowering. So the academics sucked out data or sucked out interesting problems and did all kinds of cool work and published all kinds of interesting papers and gave talks and advanced their careers. And the human rights practitioners were left exactly the way that they were when they started. They didn't have any solutions to the problems that they had, the data analysis challenges that they had. And at a certain point, I realized that this was a big problem and that I wanted to look for solutions to these challenges. So this is a social problem. It's a problem of organization. It's a problem of social capital, and it's a problem of access. So I created the Center for Human Rights Science to facilitate partnerships between the human rights community broadly understood and scientists, practitioners, scientists and students at Carnegie Mellon who were doing work that was relevant to the challenges that human rights practitioners were facing around data gathering, data analysis, and presentation of results. So we have two main programs within the Center for Human Rights Science. The first one is the Statistics and Data Science program that's led by Professor Robin Mejia in the Statistics and Data Science department. And you can see what we do there. We also have a technology program, which is led by my colleague, Enrique Parrases, who's on this call. There are two aspects of the technology program. One is the Human Rights Technology Lab, where we do this work of piloting new techniques and working with practitioners who have data analysis challenges and trying to figure out what solutions exist and what solutions might need to be developed. When a solution needs to be developed, we find a partner within the Carnegie Mellon community generally who's able to help us. We also have an emerging technology observatory, or what we do here is we look for new things that are being developed, like the project that Ritwik just described on using computer vision and machine learning to do damage assessment after a disaster. And that's something that's extremely interesting to my colleagues in the human rights community. And I'm already thinking that we need to talk to Ritwik and we need to really figure out how we can use this kind of technology for the work that our colleagues in the human rights community are doing. We support organizations and institutions around the world at all levels. We don't talk about much of our work because some of it's sensitive and some of it is governed by non-disclosure agreements, but we really have a broad base of collaborators. I don't even know if I'm going to get to the work that I do that we do, and I can provide you with access to some of that. But I think the most important thing that I wanted to tell you about today was our core values. We are very focused on limiting the harm that we cause in the work that we do. And so rather than finding technologies at Carnegie Mellon and then looking for ways that they can be useful to people in the community, we're focused on solving problems that people in the human rights community have. We don't assume that we know the needs of the community. We actually start all of our projects with a partner who needs a solution to something, and then we look for the technologies that are available rather than vice versa. We obviously do try and make our collaborators aware of what's out there, but it's very partner driven. We see our work as being in solidarity with the human rights community. We want to make their work more effective and efficient. We don't want to bypass them. We don't think we can bypass them or render them unnecessary. We bring humility to all of our work. We recognize that we're not subject matter or regional experts on most situations, and our collaborators are. Something that you might be surprised about is that we're very tech skeptical. We don't believe that technology can solve complex social and political problems alone. If it could, we wouldn't have complex social and political problems. We're focused on taking the time to build trust with our partners. We want them to know that we're not doing this for personal gain, to satisfy our own curiosity, or for publicity. And finally, we're deliberate. We believe that real lasting solutions to complex social and political challenges take time to develop. We don't believe in hackathons where you learn about a problem for an hour and then you spend 24 hours trying to get a solution. We are also very against the idea of failing fast and trying something new that a lot of tech luminaries use, because that can cause great harm in the human rights and humanitarian domains. So one of the first projects that we worked on was around human rights media. So when I was doing the Counting Civilian Casualties work, I had a lot of groups coming to me telling me that they were getting lots and lots of videos, like tens of thousands of videos out of situations, and there was information that could be gathered there. And the huge problem for them was, this is all the information that they could get. You can learn a lot from a video, but the challenge of actually sorting through massive amounts of data, massive numbers of videos for the parts that are important was just taking too much time, and they couldn't actually get through the videos. This was a problem that I was convinced that someone at Carnegie Mellon could help me with. Turns out that Alex Hauptman was doing exactly this kind of work, being funded by various federal agencies. And he had a solution that was largely developed and was able to share it with my colleagues in the human rights community and to develop it further. And so one of the first things that we did was that we made this video search tool available to human rights practitioners. It works really well. You can use pre-developed classifiers or build your own, which is great. You can look for video. You can look through large volumes of video for the object, sound, speech, or text that you want. This led to another project around. We were approached by a group of Ukrainian human rights lawyers who were trying to prosecute a police group that had killed several 49 protesters during the Euromaidan protests in 2013, 2014. They had a ton of video. It wasn't synchronized. Most of it didn't have metadata. Some of it did, but they needed to very quickly, I know I have very little time, they needed to very quickly synchronize hundreds of videos and to geolocate them so they could build an archive that could be used to show in court. If I had more time, I would describe to you exactly what we did. I will post this link here to a story about this in the New York Times, and you can see how we brought this video together. And Junwei will talk a little bit more about it this afternoon. I just wanted to remind you of our core values. And if you're interested in working with us, if you think that you have tools that are useful in a human rights context, and you want to reach out to us, My email is here, as is Enrique's, and I will stop there because I'm at the end of my time.
Thank you so much, Jay. One quick request. Could you please share the links with the audience in the chat box?
Absolutely. I'm going to do that as soon as I am done. As soon as I'm done, yeah.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
any quick questions from the audience? Okay. We will. So yeah, there's Ritwik asked a question in the chat box.
Yeah. So just very quickly, it was done using sound. We built a sound print. I'll have to talk to him because I want to talk to him anyway. But we used sound, an algorithm that basically detected particular sounds and created an ordering of those sounds, and then used them. You just basically, you bootstrap your way through the videos. We had some ground truth because we had journalists who had provided video to the lawyers that had good metadata. So we were able to use the sounds at particular points to say, okay, this is where this sound occurred, and then you could do that in all the videos until you got through. There's obviously an offset between light and sound, so we had to be able to, or not we, but the graduate students who did the work had to be able to adjust so that the sound, so that the video, the images lined up, even if the sounds were slightly off. So they developed a calculation that allowed them to do that. And Junwei will be talking about this this afternoon in the context of shooter localization. He's one of the graduate students, one of Alex's graduate students who's been most involved. Anyway, thank you so much. This is really exciting. And again, I really wish I could talk to people in person. Hopefully soon we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, cool. And this is really exciting talk. Thank you so much.